So last time we went over table mode. Now it's time to go over handheld mode, with something a little bit larger. Last time we used a battery, so it only makes sense to use the actual tool this time. So I'm going to be scanning this ratchet wrench. You could do this in table mode, but you would need to change the camera position quite a number of times to capture everything. But this is at the top end of what I would consider practical for table mode scanning. Another factor to deciding what mode to use would be if you wanted to do a color scan, but that'll be in a later video, so get subscribed if that's what you're after. I'm putting it quite close to the edge of the desk to allow scanning from lower angles to make sure that I can capture all of the geometry. Make sure you're in geometry mode, pick a brightness. As I mentioned last time, you want to avoid any red in the top right preview window. Clicking preview will give you 10 seconds by default to get the scanner the correct distance from the item by looking at the graph on the left. The preview countdown can be adjusted in the settings if you need more or less time to get ready. You will immediately go into scanning straight after the preview countdown is finished. So I'm just slowly sweeping back and forth slightly, starting from the top of the tool and moving down. This has several materials and colours that respond in different ways. As I get to the lower part, you can notice that the glossy black trigger isn't being picked up very well at all. If this happens, just carry on trying to capture as much data as you can with the current settings. The aim is to over-provide data that can be stripped away later instead of relying on the software knowing how to fill in gaps for you. I tried upping the brightness mid-scan to see if that would help capture the trigger, but it didn't work. So I backed it off again to continue with the rest of the item. The trick to handheld mode is slow, deliberate movement, no sudden changes or jerky motion. While moving around the item, keep an eye on the chart on the left to make sure you are keeping the proper distance, keeping the bump of the graph in the middle. In handheld mode, it can be very easy to lose tracking. This can be caused by several different things, like overexposure with the brightness settings, too close, too far, or moving too fast for the scanner to see the last scanned area. If tracking is lost, you will notice the scan preview is shifted to the right and a pink text message showing above the left chart. Simply move the scanner back to the last location shown in the middle. It can take a couple of seconds sometimes, but with steady movements, it's pretty easy to pick up again. If you're having a problem with the scanner losing tracking a lot over a particular area or object, try adjusting the brightness levels, scan a little bit further back, or use some form of marker on the item like a dot sticker. Or just using spray might help. Scanning large smooth surfaces will be a challenge without some form of marker to use as a reference point in the viewable area, which is 536 by 378 millimeters. You want to easily be able to identify points no more than these distances apart. Building the scans can take longer in handheld mode, as you're no longer capped at 32 seconds of scanning time and can capture much larger point clouds. Whilst it's processing the first scan, I'm spraying the tool with some developer spray on the reflective surfaces. Now I'm just clicking append and going for a second scan. Again, using the countdown preview to get the scanner in the right position, ready to scan. This is the equivalent of resetting and initializing in table mode. Now that the spray has been applied, the top right preview is showing red dots indicating that the brightness is too high, so bring the brightness down until you no longer see any red. Having flat, even lighting in the environment that you're working in can really help with this, but it doesn't have to be bright. Again, I'm moving slowly around the whole item now and the trigger is being picked up without an issue. I'm moving the scanner up and looking down onto the tool so that every angle is being picked up. This is where having it close to the edge of the desk really helps, as the scanner can be below and look up at the item. You can sweep over the same area if needs be to get all the data you need. The only risk from this is losing tracking and ending up with incorrect data overlapping. If it's just a small amount, you can just delete this once it's done and keep the rest of the scan, or completely redo the scan. Now just rinse and repeat as many times as necessary and in as many positions. You can monitor the amount of memory used and required per scan at the bottom right. You will start to run into stability issues with the software if you try to use more memory than your computer can allocate. You can unload scans to save on memory if you need more scans and are running low. In the cleanup process, this usage can be cut down quite heavily, allowing you to use all of your scans sequentially instead of all at once. Now I'm scanning with the tool lying flat on the desk. This is mostly to capture details of the battery well, but I'm still scanning the rest of the tool to help with alignment later. I tried this a couple of times, but was having issues with it losing tracking. This wasn't down to distancing. It could be related to the brightness, but mostly I think it's down to the edge of the desk blocking the view of one of the cameras. I propped the tool up off the desk to get a clearer view, which helped. Then I rescanned the tool standing up to replace one of the scans that got accidentally deleted. When deleting failed scans, it can be quite slow to respond, so make sure you only click the delete button once and give it a couple of seconds. After this one, I tried auto-aligning just to see how it would manage, fully expecting it to fail, which it did, so onwards to the cleanup and post-processing. Okay, so now it's time to get all this cleaned up. You can see I've got my named scans here, so 1, 2 and 3. This is the replacement one, and 1 and 2 for when it was scanned on its edge. So I'm just going to hide them all and then make the only one that I want visible. So right click, invert visible. We'll start at the top. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of the table. So as I showed last time, you can use the lasso function and control, select a few points, right click, selection plane, and there we go. Now it will take some points from the bottom of the tool. At the moment, I don't think there's a threshold slider that we can use like there is on CR Studio Lite, but this can be replaced with the data from the lower scans anyway. So to avoid this, alternatively, you can right click, clear the selection, and manually select it like this. Yeah, that's a bit better. There's still some other data I would like to clear up while I'm here. Okay, looking at the top section here, it looks like that the head has been scanned in 2 rotations. So this looks like it should be the back of the head where the dial is to choose the direction. But it looks like this is like a cap over the top, as if this face has been scanned at this orientation. So that's one thing to look out for when fusing. That'll do for now. Moving on. Okay, so now I'm going to make this the main scan that I think I'm going to align things to. Just change the color so I can remember. I'll also go back and delete this data here. So this is far from ideal, but we can completely remove this if needed. But let's try aligning them and see how they get on. That's pretty good, but as expected, the ones scanning from the bottom, it's not quite as good. Well, to be fair, the first one has done a really good job, but the second one, yeah, it's just a little bit off. We can manually align between these two. So we know that this one is the best and the most accurate. So we'll align number 2 to that one. Go into manual, click on here. And there we have it. That's not too bad. You can see there's quite a lot of stray data here, there and everywhere. But again, we'll see how well it goes before going back and cleaning anything up. I'm going to leave all this as default. So all of this is enabled. Just going to remove the noise, repair any holes and simplify it. Yep, I want to do all of them. This bit always annoys me, that it asks you to export the data before you've even got a chance to check it over. But so far that looks pretty good. The hole in here is not quite as accurate and it's a bit warped on the inside, but again, didn't spend a lot of time focusing to get good visibility with the scanner in there. It's done a really good job of the trigger, and the safety switch had a big hole at the bottom that was hard to pick up, so it's patched that quite nicely. It's not quite got the shape around there quite as accurate, but so it's done a good job of figuring out what it is that was intended up here. So it's prioritized the right data to model out this section. This is a bit messy, so I might have to do something about this. So I know I mentioned previously how you can clean up the point cloud data if you need to, but you can also clean up the fused model as well. So I'm quite happy with this in general, and you saw what the data was working with it. But for this section up here, some stuff's got to go. You see this does open up a hole. So this is why it's better to clean up the point cloud data rather than cleaning up the fused model. Because now we have to run the repair feature again. So now that that's almost good to go, come up to edit and go fill holes. You see, it's repaired the model once again, and it's kind of put it back where it was. So this to me would say that it's an issue with the point cloud data more than anything. So what we can do is we can remove this, make all of the scans visible again, and we can clean this up a little bit more. Just to reiterate, whilst it's processing, your memory usage will go up as it is generating more data to mesh all together before it can simplify. So even though this says memory usage 14%, that is what CR Studio is using. As you can see, I'm actually at 41%. Oh, not perfect. As I say, really I should have gone back and done another scan of just this area if it was crucial. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm pretty happy with that. And it's worked a lot better than just patching holes made in the fused model. So going back and cleaning up the point data was the right thing to do. But there we go. That looks pretty good. So that's a guide to handheld mode scanning. If this video helped, please give it a like and maybe leave a comment. The next video is going to be using the color kit to get picture and color texture mapping done. Thanks for watching. See you in a bit.